Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Sloan, and I want to welcome you to another interesting show of the inspirational influencer news, people making a difference. And my guest this afternoon is Rita Schoeman. And Rita is certainly someone who is making a difference. She had a very interesting life and spent a lot of years as an accountant. Okay, so now we can feel very sorry for her. Imagine spending 15 or 18 or however many long years she spent being an accountant, but she survived. And when she finally decided that it was time to change careers because her employer decided to change everything up and do something completely differently, she decided that she really needed some help and reached out to a life coach. And she got some counseling, got some support, and really started to realize that it was an internal conversation that she needed to have with herself that would, in fact, transport her from the world of fear and confusion to one of certainty and happiness. And now she really wants to provide that same a possibility for people that are in her life that are struggling. Things seem confused, things seem uncertain. And gosh knows, don't we all with this pandemic have times in our life when everything seems very confusing and everything seems very uncertain, and who are we and where are we going? So when things get like that, you can come and see Rita Schoeman. Rita, thank you so much for coming along on this journey with us. And let us know what really has been your journey into being yourself, I guess would be the best way to say this.
Mary, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to be on your show. I really are so grateful for this opportunity. And I'm going to share my story because my story is also the work that I do. And as you said, I was an accountant. I left the corporate world. And when I left the corporate world, I thought, oh, wow, I knew everything. But here's the thing, I fall flat on my face. And I was in a very, very dark space. And I remember very well that I stayed with my oldest brother for a while, and he probably got fed up with me. And he said to me, but you need to make a choice now. Either you're going to go and book into a psychiatric environment for 2 weeks and sleep for 2 weeks, or something else. And there was just a force inside me that refused to go and sort out whatever the problem was, the story that I was telling myself in a psychiatric institution. And that's where I thought, okay, what do I do? How do I go from where I am now to where I want to go? And that's where I invested in my own life coach, and I still see them. And funny enough, I had my session this morning with my life coach. And as I worked through my own stories, I realized, but this is so healing, not just for me, but for other people as well. And that became my passion. And in this whole process of healing myself and searching and evolving, I came across, which was really at that point in time a huge eye-opener for me, across the word empowerment. And I don't know what it resonates with you, and I don't know what it resonates with the people outside there. But when I discovered the true definition of empowerment, it was really as if a light bulb just switched on. And I want to share with you this definition. And it's the definition of Wikipedia, and it's the process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's own life and claiming one's own rights.
Sorry, say that last bit again, climbing.
It's claiming, especially in controlling one's life.
Right.
And claiming one's rights.
Oh, claiming one's rights. Okay.
Claiming one's rights. So
okay.
when I read this and I saw this and I thought, wow. And I pondered for a while. I call it percolate. I sat with it for a couple of days. I percolated on this definition. And then I thought, but you know what? If this definition is true, then it means I am the creator of the empowerment that I'm seeking. And that just opened my mind so much. But the question is, are your listeners the creator of the empowerment that they are seeking? And the further question is, if you're not, what is preventing you from attaining this empowerment, this controlling my life, claiming my rights? And the answer is very, very simple. It is, I am the story that I'm telling myself. And it depends on what stories we are telling ourselves. And most of the time, that story that we're telling ourselves happens unconsciously.
I was just going to say, because I'm sure we're all telling ourselves stories, but it would be very challenging to figure out what stories we were telling ourselves. And I can see how that could be very disabling if the stories were disabling, and very empowering if the stories were empowering. But
absolutely,
it must be very difficult. I mean, I would think it would be very difficult for people who are being challenged by their stories to figure out what they're telling themselves.
And you're absolutely correct. It is challenging. How do I understand? Because if I can use this, we want to be successful, and we tell our intellectual mind, our conscious mind, I am successful. But it never materialized. Why not? Because unconsciously, I'm telling myself the opposite story of fear, of rejection, of guilt, of abuse, of whatever it is. I find control, overwhelmed, and I'm just giving a few words that that's the story that we're telling ourselves unconsciously. And I'm going to quote Albert Einstein, the wise old gentleman, and he said, you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. And maybe just for your listeners, a consciousness, the same mind, that's in that context that he used it. Another wise old man said, Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And that fate is, I don't deserve this. I deserve better. Unconsciously, we're telling ourselves that I don't deserve this. But if we understand it, that I am the creator of whatever I am in right now, there is no deserved. It is what it is. I created it. And when I understood this was so, so powerful. So what do? I help my clients to change the narrative of the story that they're telling themselves. That unconscious story that they're telling themselves, whatever it might be, I don't know what it is. And I actually want to share with you a few stories of my clients. And I met a lady the beginning of lockdown, early 2020. And I remember her face when she walked into my office. When I saw her, she looked like a bull that saw a red flag. It was just anger all over her face. It took a while. It took a while for us to uncover exactly why is she so angry? And in this whole process of discovering, it came down to when she was born. Her mom and dad did not have a good relationship. And when she was born, her dad, the attention that he should have taken and put onto his wife, he put it onto this little baby girl. So she got all the attention. That just infuriated the mother. And the mother just got more angry and angry and angry. And the dad passed away. I think she was about 4, 5, 6 years old. I can't remember. And that whole process of the angry mother just was there. And she thought that is normal. But that also affected all her relationships, especially at work.
I can imagine it would make a life pretty interestingly challenging to have a mom angry at you because you took the affection of her husband. That's quite extraordinarily weird, I would hope, but maybe not so weird.
You know what? It is weird in some way, but it's not so weird because the mother and the father had their own pain, their own reason for why they couldn't see eye to eye. But because it's a transfers of energy that takes place. That angry mother, because she didn't get the attention that she needed. She didn't get the love that she needed from her husband. That just made her very, very angry. But here's the thing. This lady had a 6-year-old son, and she was busy doing exactly the same what her mother did to her. She was busy doing to her son. She was transferring her own anger, which really had no reason for being there, to her son. And when we resolved that, the son also changed.
Well, the poor child would have been, you know, exactly. Like all I can do is make mom mad. I don't get it. You know, what a horrible life to live.
But exactly that, Mary, and that is unconsciously that happened. She just transferred her own anger onto her child. So that's the one story. The other story,
she came to seek help. I mean, you know, I think that you see parents. I have a son now who has children, little children, and he's doing coaching and stuff. And he invariably has one child who shows up hitting and punching or striking out or doing something, and you know that it's coming from home, and what do? You know, like, I mean, it's really hard for James as a coach to, you know, this poor little kid, he doesn't know anything other than I get hit all the time, so I guess that's what you do, you hit everybody.
But exactly that, Mary, because that's the norm in the environment that he grows up.
Absolutely.
He doesn't know better. You can't blame him for
it's
being
definitely
what
not his fault, but it doesn't help doesn't help a coach with a bunch of little kids running around anyway.
No. So can you understand the impact that it's got?
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So here's another story of a client that came and asked for help. And she said to me, my dad, as a little girl, my dad told me, men do not make love to fat women. And that stuck.
Sorry, men do not make love to
fat women.
Oh, fat women.
Yes. That stuck into her unconscious mind. And she was not fat. She was not fat.
Well, I guess she would be terribly afraid to put on any pounds. She probably anorexic. Exactly.
Correct. The impact that had on that lady, on her relationship with herself, the relationship with her partner, the relationship with everybody outside. It's undescribable because unconsciously she believed that she was just not good enough, beautiful enough, thin enough, everything that you can think of.
Yeah, she could never possibly be thin enough. I mean, I think that's, you know, from what I understand of anorexics, that's the problem that they've fallen into, that they literally can never be thin enough.
So this is what that's what I do. I help people change that narrative of that story that they're telling themselves, so that they can become the success that they are meant to be. And we can define success in many various ways, whatever way they want to define it. It's bring out the best version of yourself, because we are actually beautiful, powerful human beings, and we just are so unaware of our own unique inner power because of all these stories that we're telling with ourselves, and every story has got it originates somewhere, and it's just to change that narrative of that story, and that's what I do, and that's what I love to do, because I had to change my own story. You know, I truly had to change my own story, and it started with the concept of the word empowerment. And I am the creator of whatever I want.
Well, it's you know, it's interesting to hear those words. It's another dimension entirely to live those words, because we can say them, but we get caught up in our own what was it? One of the people that I went to, and he called it stinking thinking. We get caught up in our own stinking thinking,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
where, you know, we believe all these stories that we tell ourselves, and that, so, you know, to have someone like you that people can reach out to, because the life that they want, they can't live until they change that stinking thinking. I mean,
Absolutely. I like the stinking thinking, because that is actually exactly what it is.
well, it's interesting that I had a fellow who did personal development work, you know, and he led these large seminars, and you know, that was his claim to fame, you know, like stop the stinking thinking, and you'll change your life. And you know, and it really is that simple in some ways, but hard to get hold of, because it's sort of like fear. You know, many of us have fears, getting on stage, talking in public, you know, going out and being seen, you know, and the thing is that they're all based somewhere in our brain that's way back deep in the core part of our brain, and then it gets buried, and now it becomes in our unconscious, as opposed to something we can get hold of. And that's why it becomes so challenging to, you know, I mean, you first of all have to get to the story, and you have to figure out, okay, so how can I change the story in a way that I can convince my unconscious to believe?
Yes, you're right. It's easy to say change the stinking thinking, but it is much more difficult to understand who you are. And I always say to my clients, you have to understand that this whole process of personal development, personal transformation, changing the narrative of I am the story that I'm telling myself, it's like peeling an onion. You layer for layer for layer, and what does the onion do? It burns your eyes. So it is painful to sit with those memories, those because you have to remember that the story that I'm telling myself is actually based on a belief. Somewhere in my system, it's based on a belief.
Well, we decided that something that happened meant something.
Yes.
And it didn't mean, it may or may not have meant anything even close to that, but you've decided it meant something.
Exactly.
Usually
that.
about you.
Yeah, it is about you. But I've created a belief. I've created a value in that because of a memory or whatever. And it is so difficult to change that belief, because that belief is if I change it, means it's the unknown. And we as humans just don't like the unknown, because it is risky. It is outside our normal reference. It's normally the unknown is associated with death, and we just don't like it. Therefore, we don't go there. But we have to go there to change the narrative of the story that I'm telling myself.
Well, you have to go there if you want a different outcome, that's for sure.
True. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, because
correct.
Because the thing is that so far the outcome is whatever your life looks like at this precise moment in time.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I don't know if you can do it inch by inch, it's a cinch, or whether it needs to be savagely disruptive. But you know, I think that because we are conscious beings too, once we can become conscious of it, we can start to, like you said, unpeel the onion,
Yes.
and then see where
Yes.
more
Yes.
parts of it, you know, I suspect it's a inch by inch, it's a cinch sort of thing.
Correct. It is. Sometimes sometimes it's very fast, and sometimes it's very slow. You know, so I can't tell you. It depends on the individual. Sometimes it moves fast, sometimes very slow, but it is like peeling an onion. You have to peel every layer that's there. Yeah, to change that narrative, that story that I'm telling myself, it means I need to peel the onion.
Well, sadly, time just flies when we're having fun, you know.
Yeah, true. I can't believe it.
It's sad, but you know, if people are finding themselves caught in a life that they don't want to continue to live, and would like to see what story they're telling themselves that can be changed with some support and help, and because you know, you can go from being quote unquote a failure to a big success,
For sure,
just by changing that narrative. So
absolutely.
how can they reach you, Rita, if they would like to have a conversation about what's possible once you have decided that I don't like this life as it is?
Mary, they can reach me. My email address is rita@ritaschoeman.co.za, or they can go straight to my website and book a discovery call with me. My website is ritaschoeman.co.za.
Okay, so we should spell that. So it's RITASC as in Charlie, HOEMAN .co.az.
No, .za.
Oh, sorry, ZA.
Yeah.
Okay.
ZA.
.ZAZA for South Africa.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay. They can also find you on LinkedIn, I believe,
yes.
at Rita Schoeman.
Correct. They can find me there.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you telling us this. And, you know, it's a world of stinking thinking. So you might be very busy. Thank you.
Mary, thank you. And I'm saying again, thank you for allowing this half an hour with you. It was really fun. Half an hour is gone. Thank you for your time. I'm extremely grateful for your time and
well,
being
you're
on
the
your
type
show.
of person that I want to feature, because people making a difference, go to Rita Schoeman. She is making a difference.
Thanks, Mary.